I had never been one to shy away from responsibility, but that didn't mean I was anyone's personal babysitter, least of all my sister's. My apartment was my sanctuary, a fragile bubble of quiet and order that I fought hard to maintain. The idea of someone barging in and shattering that peace made my chest tighten. And yet, there she was, calling me on a Thursday evening, her voice sweet, almost innocently pleading. "Hey, can you watch Max and Lily tomorrow?" Her words dripped with practiced charm, as if she had rehearsed them. "I have an appointment, and I don't want to leave them with anyone else." I could hear the unspoken message, "You're the only one I trust." You can't say no, but I did. I always did when it mattered. No, I said firmly, feeling the finality of the word on my tongue. "I can't, not tomorrow. I have work I can't reschedule, and I just need a break." There was a pause, a hesitation that made my heart tighten. I imagined her pursing her lips, silently calculating how she might twist my refusal into guilt. Then came the sigh, soft but deliberate, and the words I had dreaded. "Oh, okay. I guess I'll figure something out." I hung up the phone, expecting relief. I imagined curling onto my sofa with a cup of tea, the apartment silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint buzz of city lights outside my window. Instead, unease settled in my chest like a stone. Her tone had felt too light, too careful, almost like a challenge. I spent the evening replaying our conversation, remembering moments from childhood, her demanding nature, the way she always found a way to bend people to her will. I remembered the countless times I had been her fallback plan, the silent resentment building like a shadow behind my ribs. And yes, part of me felt guilty for saying no. Family meant something, even if it often came wrapped in frustration and chaos. But the guilt didn't outweigh my need for boundaries, not anymore. I had learned, after years of being the reliable older sibling, that refusing didn't make me cruel. It made me human. I had my limits, and for once, I was determined to honor them. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that her silence meant trouble. I knew my sister too well. That quiet, almost mischievous pause usually preceded some carefully plotted scheme to get what she wanted. I tried to push the thought away, reminding myself that I had done the right thing. I had said no, I had stood my ground. Yet, as I settled onto the couch with a sigh, I felt an unshakable knot of anticipation. Something was coming, something that would test my patience, my resolve, and perhaps my very definition of family loyalty. I didn't know it yet, but the evening I had planned for rest and solitude was about to be swallowed by chaos I hadn't invited. And deep down, I realized with a sinking feeling, my sister had already begun plotting. I thought I had prepared myself for anything, but nothing could have prepared me for the sound of rapid, small knocks at my door. My coffee cup trembled in my hand as I walked toward the entrance, a creeping sense of dread coiling in my stomach. When I opened the door, 2 pairs of wide, innocent eyes stared back at me. Max and Lily, my nephew and niece, standing awkwardly with small backpacks and shoes slightly scuffed from travel. They looked expectantly at me, their tiny hands clutching each other as if for comfort. "Hi, Mom said you'd watch us." Max said, voice careful, rehearsed, his eyebrows knitting together in the faintest expression of worry. Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter and nodded. I froze, the words caught in my throat. "Wait, what?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. You're here. Why are you here?" Max shifted from foot to foot, glancing down at his shoes. We came in an Uber. Mom said we could stay." The room spun around me for a fraction of a second. The knot of dread from the night before tightened, twisting in anger and disbelief. I had said no. I had set my boundary clearly, decisively. Yet here they were, cheerful, oblivious, dragged into my life by someone else's manipulation. I grabbed my phone to call my sister. No answer. I texted her, no reply. A surge of frustration bubbled up, but I swallowed it, forcing my voice into a calm tone for the kids' sake. "Well, okay, come in," I said, stepping aside. The kids scurried past me, exploring my apartment with the familiar curiosity that had always made me smile in the past. But today I felt no joy, only betrayal. I poured them some juice, unpacked their small suitcases, and tried to mask my irritation. Every cheerful comment, Every laugh from them felt like a tiny sting reminding me of my sister's disregard for my refusal. I kept glancing at my phone, hoping for a call or even a text acknowledging the chaos she had caused, but nothing came. As I watched them set up a small corner with their toys, a part of me softened. They were just children. Innocent, they hadn't asked to be involved in this power struggle. Their laughter, tentative and bright, reminded me that despite the manipulation, I still cared. I could still make the day pleasant for them, but the anger lingered, simmering beneath the surface. And then it hit me, the Uber. I had received a confirmation email earlier that she had arranged a driver. Something about the details felt off. The driver's name didn't match the one she had texted me about. My mind began piecing together the implications, a sinking realization forming. This wasn't just about her ignoring my refusal. This was a calculated move, a way to force me into compliance, testing whether I would give in to guilt or stand my ground. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rising tide of anger. I would not let her control me, not today, not ever. But as I watched the kids laughing and running through my apartment, I knew that whatever came next, I would need more than patience. I would need strategy, because this was no longer just about babysitting. This was about boundaries. About respect, about the quiet, sharp edge of betrayal. And I was determined not to let her get away with it. By mid-morning, the initial shock had worn off, replaced by a strange, simmering mixture of frustration and curiosity. Max and Lily were busy playing a board game I hadn't seen in years, laughing and shouting at each other, as if the world beyond my apartment didn't exist. And yet I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was off. It started with the Uber. As I double-checked the ride receipt my sister had sent, my brow furrowed. The driver's name didn't match the one she had texted me. The pickup location seemed slightly off, too. Small details, but glaring enough that my instinct screamed. She had manipulated this. Then came the subtle oddities in the kids' behavior. Max, usually calm and logical, kept glancing toward the window, whispering to Lily. Lily, cheerful and innocent, was unusually quiet when I asked simple questions. Their energy wasn't wrong. It was rehearsed. They were trying, unconsciously, to mirror the expectations someone had placed on them. And I realized with a sickening clarity, my sister hadn't just ignored my boundaries. She had orchestrated a little performance, sending them as pawns to guilt me into compliance. I clenched my fists, my anger rising, but beneath it was a sharper, more calculated thought. If she wanted a game, I would play, but on my terms. I spent the rest of the morning observing, taking notes in my mind. Their toys were arranged in a pattern, almost like a subtle clue, a breadcrumb trail from the Uber ride. Max had scribbled something on a piece of paper, and Lily had drawn what looked like a map of the apartment. My sister had underestimated me, not just my ability to say no, but my ability to see through her schemes. As they left the room to grab snacks, I began planning. Sweet revenge didn't have to be cruel. It just had to teach a lesson. And I knew exactly how to do it. Step 1, involve the kids. They were innocent, yes, but bright. I could turn this manipulation into a lesson for all of us. I would craft a small adventure, a series of tasks that would keep them entertained, teach responsibility, and subtly show my sister that her attempts to control me would never work. Step 2, document everything. A playful email, filled with anecdotes, small jokes, and subtle moral lessons, sent to my sister by the end of the day. I imagined her reading it, realizing with growing dread that her plan had backfired spectacularly. Step 3, reclaim control. This day was mine to shape, despite her intrusion. I would transform betrayal into empowerment, frustration into joy, and manipulation into laughter. By the time she arrived to pick up her little pawns, she would see that I had not only survived her scheme, I had thrived because of it. The kids returned, laden with snacks, and looked at me expectantly. I smiled, the first genuine one of the morning, and crouched to their level. "Ready for a little adventure?" I asked. Their eyes lit up instantly, and for a moment, the tension in my chest eased. I realized then that the best revenge wasn't about anger or confrontation. It was about turning the situation on its head, reclaiming joy from betrayal, and teaching lessons that lingered longer than any argument ever could. And as they nodded eagerly, I felt a small thrill run through me. Today, I would win not with force, but with heart, wit, and a little quiet cunning. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over my carefully orchestrated chaos. Max and Lily were buzzing with energy, completely absorbed in the scavenger hunt I had devised. Every clue led them to a new discovery, a puzzle to solve, a small task to complete, a hidden note with a tiny moral lesson. Ask before assuming, one read. Respect other people's space, said another. I watched them dart from room to room, their laughter echoing through the apartment, and felt a quiet satisfaction settle in my chest. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't punishment, it was subtle, clever, and profoundly effective. My sister had tried to corner me, to manipulate me into compliance, but I had flipped the script. I had turned her scheme into something joyful, educational, and unforgettable. By the time the kids reached the final clue, they were beaming, holding a small note they had written themselves. Dear Mom, thank you for trusting us today, but we had fun doing things on our own. Max's handwriting was precise, Lily's letters playful and uneven. I smiled, feeling the thrill of tiny triumphs ripple through me. Then came the email. I had drafted it the night before, careful to balance humor and subtle chastisement. I listed the day's events, the unexpected arrival, the scavenger hunt, the lessons learned, and the moments when the kids had taken initiative. Every anecdote carried a gentle, but unmistakable, message. Boundaries mattered, manipulation didn't work, and forcing others rarely ended well. I see the kids, knowing full well their innocent signatures would add weight to my words. When my sister finally called, her voice tight, a mixture of panic and exasperation, I remained calm. Hi, I said, keeping my tone light. I think you should read the email first. The kids will explain the rest. The silence on the other end was palpable. I could almost see her scrolling through the messages, realizing that the day she had intended to control and guilt me had become a day of independence, responsibility, and fun for her own children. By the time she arrived to pick them up, Max and Lily were practically bursting to tell her about every step of the scavenger hunt. They recounted the tasks, the clues, the lessons learned, and the tiny victories they had achieved. My sister listened, her eyes widening, lips pressed into a tight line, a mixture of guilt, surprise, and reluctant admiration etched across her face. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The lesson had been learned in laughter, in play, and in the children's bright eyes. Sweet revenge, I realized, didn't need shouting or confrontation. It thrived quietly, cleverly, and with love. As the door closed behind them, leaving me alone in my apartment once more, I sank into the couch, sipping my now cold coffee. The apartment was quiet again, but this time the calm was earned. I had reclaimed my space, defended my boundaries, and transformed betrayal into something unexpectedly beautiful. And somewhere deep inside, I knew my sister had learned something too. Respecting limits mattered. Manipulation backfired. And sometimes the sweetest victories were the ones served quietly, with patience, cunning, and a touch of love. I leaned back, letting out a long, satisfied sigh. Today, I hadn't just survived, I had won.